Here with us now, NBC News political director and editor for MSNBC.com's First Read, Chuck Todd. He's still awake. He's been awake for 3 weeks covering the conventions. And how are you doing, Chuck, this morning?
Why am I here? If Joe's not here, why should I be here? Well, there's only, 57 days to the election, and he's taking a day off?
No.
That's a bunch of hooey.
I'd like to consider it on assignment. On assignment.
On assignment.
He's on assignment in the Panhandle.
No. He actually is working. All right, so
I think he's lurking in my neighborhood over here, but still. Get to work, Joe.
Oh, come on. The guy's the hardest working man in television. All right. Yeah.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Not on today.
Exactly. What a slap in the face to us. I mean, Pat and I are here. Willie is here.
I know. I feel actually,
and you're insulting us by saying,
I feel that might be
shouldn't
sexist.
Be here.
Where's Joe?
I'm insulted. Oh. I guess you're saying I don't measure up, Chuck.
Oh, stop it.
Nothing wrong. No, Mika, you're coming to work. You realize there's an election in 57 days.
Let's look at the polls.
That's all.
Speaking of that election, Chuck. Chuck, you love Gallup polls. You've told me often.
Isn't it the best polling firm ever?
Off air, behind closed doors.
They've done such a good job with their name.
I get the feeling Chuck Todd's on fire this morning. Take it away, Willie.
Well, maybe we're making too much of these, but we're going to show them to you. And Mike Barnacle shared your love, by the way. Here's the Gallup Daily Tracking Poll. John McCain with a 3-point lead. Of course, that's a huge swing from coming out of the Democratic convention a week and a half ago. But if you look closely here, Chuck, registered voters. Let's take a look inside these polls. USA Today Gallup, 50-46 for John McCain. If you look at likely voters, it's a 10-point lead, 54-44. Is that just convention bounce, Chuck, or is there something happening here?
Well, if that likely voter number is true, then the election's over.
Right.
I mean, that is a 10 points is 10 points. If that were the case, everything would be, McCain. McCain would be ahead in Pennsylvania. He'd be ahead in places like Iowa. He'd be ahead maybe even in a place like Minnesota. So that seems like a total outlier. The registered voter number, look, the Gallup poll more than any other is affected by enthusiasm, base enthusiasm. Their numbers, whenever one party is fired up and their base is fired up, maybe they make it into the sample a lot easier. It's very much almost like an EKG. It's like measuring every second of your life. So the excitement of the moment, Gallup can measure a lot better than maybe another poll. The NBC Wall Street Journal poll comes out on Wednesday. And my advice to everybody is remain calm. Be Kevin Bacon in here. Remain calm. All is well. No, wait until the NBC Wall Street Journal poll comes out on Wednesday. I mean, it is the most stable poll, not only because it has our brand on it, but seriously, it's the most stable poll out there. And it'll give you a true measure. It'll have allowed 5 days to go by after the convention. It'll allow a true measure of where the race is at.
Well, Chuck, what do you anticipate? Let's try to look into the future. I mean, if we throw out the Gallup poll, if it's not 10 points or 5 points, whatever it is, where is this race right now with the introduction of Sarah Palin coming out of the GOP convention? Where do you think we are?
Look, I think the race is about as even as it gets. And when you look at inside the battleground and you look at the 18 state polls that matter, it is very even. The fact is, if McCain thought he were ahead, he wouldn't be in Missouri today.
Right.
And if Obama thought he were way ahead, he wouldn't be in Michigan today. So, look, both campaigns, by their travel schedule, are telling you this race is as dead even as it gets right now. The Republican enthusiasm, the fact that they have closed that gap is a big deal. That was a problem. While McCain was getting 85% of Republicans, they weren't showing up. They weren't excited about it. I think it's fascinating, by the way, that McCain has decided to keep Palin on the trail with him this week.
Right.
Yeah.
She originally was supposed to be off in Alaska.
Let's talk about the Palin factor, which has some of the opinion pages over the past few days have really hit a nerve with me. I want Mike Barnacle and Pat Buchanan to join this conversation. A little bit out of your pay grade here in terms of analysis because of just basic reality, but I'm a working mother, and I read this out of the Wall Street Journal. Katty Kay, Claire Shipman, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but let me just read this to you, and let's look at the dimensions that are being injected into this because of Sarah Palin's story. It's important to understand why, then, Mrs. Palin has hit a nerve. It's not because she's a woman with children trying to do a man's job. It's because she's actually pushing the combination of professional and personal ambitions beyond the sensibilities of this generation of working moms. As women, we may be awed by her, but she's not necessarily a role model for so many professional women who now say they want to do it differently, that they don't want to do 150% of everything all the time. Cut to the end, it would make Supermom feel feeble, and we should celebrate the fact that all of this can now be discussed openly. There is some veiled criticism there, Chuck, and I wonder how much you think this is going to play in polling and in reaction among women to who this woman is and what she brings to the table.
Well, I tell you, I think that the criticism here, people that want to criticize the decisions she's made ought to be careful and realize I think a lot of women are connecting to Governor Palin on this respect. Look, working women haven't tuned into this race. They're not tuning in a lot to this race. And when they are, they're sitting there going, oh, wait a minute. That's a woman like me who's trying to have a career and raise kids, and she's getting hit for it. So, you know, this is, look, she's of this next generation of women.
Yeah.
I mean, we ought to realize, you know, she's a post-baby boomer, just like Obama. You know, we haven't talked about this aspect of Governor Palin. We've been talking about her gender, but we haven't talked about that next generation of women. You know, you saw it with Hillary Clinton being a baby boomer. I think she was having trouble balancing the expectations of, you know, where you have, on one hand, a first lady like Laura Bush, on the other hand, a first lady like Hillary Clinton, who was a career woman, and literally the baby boomer generation almost felt like it was 50-50 in the camp of do you stay home and raise children, do you try to have a career, do you try to do both? Well, this next generation of women, it's, you know, almost all are on the side of working women. There's no longer sort of this generational pull and guilt or whatever, you know, it
or
is
judgment,
taking
Chuck.
that next leap. Yeah.
And let me counter this with some thoughts of my own, because what I feel I'm reading here is liberal elite women who can give 150%, who have the opportunity to give 150%, but don't have to. What about the women out there who work 3 jobs? The woman who has 3 children and works the night shift and has to give 150% at work because she has to feed her children. See, I think the choices are there for many reasons, and we're going to have a small group of ultra-educated, excessive women in terms of judgment judging her for this choice as opposed to applauding her for it.
Well, Mika, look, I think you've put you've hit the nail on the head in this respect. I think one of the swing voting groups now left in this is going to be working women. These are women that might be culturally conservative, but economic populists. And these are folks that are not happy with President Bush, not necessarily thinking that they should be worried about abortion or gay rights these days, but are wondering about the cost of health care. It's going to be this group of women who, if Obama can connect to, I think that's how he carries a place like Missouri. That's how he ends up holding a place like Michigan. If he can't, this is where Governor Palin comes in to help John McCain.
Well, on that score, Chuck, I mean, you're right. I think, you know, there are a lot of women out there in the marketplace working who are not working at law firms or TV networks or for newspapers. There are a lot of women out there working each and every day, not necessarily because they want to work, but because they have to work. So when push comes to shove, when they begin focusing on this election, and on the one hand, you have perhaps their feelings of saying, hey, you know, stop picking on the governor of Alaska. I know her. She's a little like me. And on the other hand, they have their economic self-interest, probably more represented by the Obama ticket. At what point in all of this does Hillary Clinton join the ticket for Barack Obama and be sent around the country talking about this issue?
Sounds like
That's an interesting thing. Look, I think that that's one of the things that appears that they're trying to do is get her on the road. But I tell you, I just don't know how strong of a surrogate she can be. It's tough. When you're not the running mate, it's tough to get that much attention. And, you know, look, I saw that statement yesterday. She still doesn't feel like her heart's into it, and I don't blame her. This is not her campaign anymore. It's somebody else's, and you only have so much enthusiasm you can give for somebody else's campaign. Maybe the only way to do it is to have Obama and Clinton campaigning together. I mean, if you want to effectively use Hillary Clinton, and you believe that Hillary Clinton can help you connect to these women, then Obama's got to travel with her. The two of them got to travel together so that you can raise her profile on the campaign trail.